joining into this webinar. It's very nice to see. So now we are past 4 o'clock, and on behalf of the Erik Erikson International Choral Center, I am very, very happy to welcome you all and to introduce to you our fine panel with Martina Batič, the newly appointed chief conductor of the Danish National Vocal Ensemble, with a great experience of working with different professional choirs. Welcome, Martina.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
And welcome to Donald Nally, the conductor of The Crossing, a professional choir based in the United States that is strongly committed to explore and expand what choral work can be, and with a great experience of working in creative teams. Welcome, Donald.
Thanks for having me.
And welcome, Michael Zaugg, the managing and artistic director of Coro Canada, who is working closely together with composers and other artists to develop choral art, and with a passion also for the future upcoming composers and conductors. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks, great to be here.
And my name is Lone Larsen. I'm the conductor of VoNo, a professional vocal ensemble based in Stockholm, with a focus on developing choral performing arts through improvisation and co-creation. And I'm very happy to be your host today in this webinar. Now, this was a very short introduction of the panel, and after the webinar, every one of you will receive an email with link to websites where you can find more information about the panel and about all the choirs. And there you will also be given the possibility to give feedback to the Erik Erikson International Choral Center. And Progress is a program that EIC is working on, which is focusing on just taking the temperature on choral music today. So please give us your thoughts afterwards. Now, let's see who is all joining in today. Great, we have conductors, composers, singers, students, teachers, producers. Very, very nice to see. So a really, really warm welcome to all of you. We have almost everyone. Yeah?
But almost 50.
Yes. Thank you for giving us your answer. Now, choral art is, as you all know, a huge subject. And it's very difficult to cover in 1 hour, as you know. So EIC has chosen to keep the focus in this webinar on professional choirs and newly written music, which might or mostly will come from a Western art music point of view. So now, my first question to our wonderful panel sounds like this. Where do you find choral music is heading today? Who would like to start? Go ahead, Donald.
Oh, I wasn't offering, but I'm happy to. Well, you know, it's difficult, right? Because it's very difficult for the goldfish to really see what they're living in the goldfish bowl, and we're all living in it. But I will say that I don't think there's been a better time. This is my perspective. I don't think there's been a better time to be a professional musician. There are so many possibilities that we no longer think of a professional musician as a person who gets a job either in a full-time opera chorus or a major orchestra, but rather who creates a life that might be very varied, putting together lots of things, and the things that they're interested in, love and specialize in. And that goes for composers as well, because there's such a deep interest, particularly in the choral world, in creating new works and telling stories about the world that we live in. and age-old stories of love and death too, you know. And so I feel like it's a great time, and it can only really just grow from here, but grow in the way of small things that people love. It could be, you know, music from Spain in the 10 years in the late 17th century, or it could be, as with me, you know, new works that talk about the world we live in.
Exactly. Many possibilities. Martina, what are your thoughts?
I must say that I am somehow try to be here and now and thinking on the moment. I could agree that the choral music is actually now back on the way, because I believe that actually the experience with COVID and all issues connected to that, and canceling rehearsals and singing and everything, it was really actually hard also on professional singers, well, with every musician. So I actually am full of hope that now we are getting actually back to the world, musical world possibilities, concerts, rehearsals, moving, I would say, that we knew before, but maybe with a different experience. I must say that I do hear from some singers how hard it was back then, and that actually first now we are getting back to the feeling of being connected, not being so alone, not being so afraid, not being so in fear. What is going to happen? Are we going to see again or not, in different perspectives? So yeah, I'm full of hope, and I hope also that this feeling of togetherness, collective endeavor, and this emblem that we need today more and more has a good starting point again, or continuance.
Nice, thank you. And Michael, I know that during COVID, Coro was also suffering quite a lot. And how do you see now choral music and choral world heading today?
Yeah, thanks. When I was contemplating the question, like for us throughout COVID, it was these moments of, as Martina was describing, what can we do, where are we at, and trying to just go and think outside the box, and how can we perform in a way that we have not thought about and still make music and find new tools. And I find that has really shaped Coro and our practice. I think some of the video, maybe excerpts people might see later, is actually from that. And in terms of where is choral music going, I kind of came to this idea of having, what is the content and what are the tools, and how our tools were always, as a musician, a conductor, singer, composer, trying to shape our tools and become better at what we do. Nothing that we do now or have discovered during the pandemic we have discovered. It's all been there before, it's all been done. We just have been really forced to look at it and try it again, and look, what is vocal technique done in the 60s and 70s? How can we use this suddenly while we wear a mask and things like that? But I see definitely that I think across all the choirs we work with the participants here, like there's a shift in content, what the stories we're telling with our music, and what are the themes. And I mean, Donald has addressed it earlier in the private conversation a little bit about social issues that we're working with. So I think that's the direction we're going. How we do it, the tools, I feel like that's also something we've been forced to, I'm not saying reinvent, but like revisit of what is possible.
Yes. And that is true, that when a pandemic like this is going so much on a field like choral singing together, it was really the choral singing that was suffering a lot. It makes us, it forces us to be creative in new ways, like you say. And I think this is something that we also really see the result of now, and we will for a long time. So it was a very tough time, but it was also a time to reinvent and make up new creative solutions. So, and let's talk something about that creativity. So, if the question I ask sounds like this, what are some artistic methods or tools that you use to create new vocal art? And where do you find your inspiration? It can be more questions in one, but if you should give us a little bit on that. Have a suggestion?
Well, I ended, so I start and then we go the other way around.
Yes. Thank you.
Great.
I was thinking about inspiration. I think for me, inspiration in creating new programs, and there could be really any type of choral program or collaborations, is really about the conversation with somebody, and then not even thinking of like another conductor, composer, or singer. It could be anyone. I had a conversation 3 days ago with somebody who is a speaker for mental health for men, and suddenly, there is something where we could work on together. So it's it's just conversations and hearing stories from other people that then influence and maybe really shape how a program comes to life. And for me, the creative process or the development of a program like this really happens almost like maybe with many of us then in solitude, where we have to sit down and do brainstorming. I go for runs in the forest, and that's where I just work through all my programming and my music, or then we sit at our library and go through scores. I think but it all starts from conversations with somebody and hearing a story, and then the door opens.
And also that is because the choral art, what we work with, is very closely connected to human life, right? So, and Michael, if we should show one film of a collaboration that you guys did together with, you can explain more, with a heavy metal choir, finding new sounds. And let's just see a little bit of the film first.
Sure.
Stranded on this desolate mountaintop, waiting for an end, for deliverance.
Could you tell us a little bit about this collaboration, Michael? And we will let the music be in the background.
Yeah, sure. It's interesting watching it. I don't know how it's perceived by other viewers right now. I remember this performance and how my heart rate was so much higher than in other performances. And the energy that came from these performers was just so powerful. We're working together with the Canadian League of Composers, doing a mentorship program And over the course of 2 years, we worked with 12 young composers.
Exposed upon this
And these young composers wrote completely new works, some on themes, some on not themes. And then they came to Edmonton and workshopped all these pieces with Coro Canada, and we had these performances. Now, the composer of this work, I met through this collaboration with Canadian League of Composers, and this piece was one of his portfolio works. And I said, well, we just want to bring you and your choir, the Growlers, to Coro, to Edmonton, and do a concert together. And what was interesting, this piece is about 20 minutes, and it talks about an old Greek story about the man on the watchtower waiting for the fleet to come home, and the Growlers really bring in some of these very desolate sounds of sun and rock and earth. And then the choir has some, as we call traditional notation and traditional singing, but also has to take on some of these sounds. So there was a little bit of a training moment of how do we activate this sound. And then the other way around, we had to work with these heavy metal singers on like the score, notation, conducting, timing, etc., etc. What was interesting is that we picked this very particular piece called The Day King, but then working with them ahead of time, we were like, what other works can we perform with choir and growler? And one that was really effective, and I think many of you attending here today know Thomas Jennefeld, Warning to the Rich.
Yeah.
And the growlers doing the semi-choir going, come on, you wealthy, and cry about the miseries that are coming upon you. So that piece was so powerful with the growlers. And then we found another piece that used kind of like Oriental Tibetan undertone singing, Kagira. And the growlers could do that because that's part of their technique. So we suddenly found other works that we actually could adapt for classical chamber choir and heavy metal growlers. And so that was how this came together. It was a fantastic performance, and there's a couple more of those in the works in the coming years.
Yeah, cool. And you see the engagement that they have in the singing. That
Yeah.
I mean, who wouldn't want our professional singers to have that engagement, right?
And it also it translated to the
Yeah,
to
that
the
was-
chamber choir, to the traditional classical singers, how they suddenly were able to feel the vibration of this and it translated into their sonority, and the overtones that were created. So we know this, we can work with this. So was great back and forth between different vocal techniques.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, because that was my next question. How did it affect Coro singers? Was it like, I mean,
It was. I think it was the main part was the energy that came to the room performing. We also did, just chamber choir works, traditional work, so to speak. And then they did a piece on their own. So it was interesting. I wouldn't, put a value on either, or it was just a very different presentation and a very different energy that came across, and both have their place. But combining the two, that was what everybody was really excited about.
exactly. When you work on improvisation, you always talk about this, that you have yellow, you have red, and together it becomes orange. So it's something new that is created. And this is just, I mean, a beautiful example of how you the choirs inspire each other to both be better in their own way also. Very nice. And Donald, I'm interested in knowing a little bit more about how you work when you work in creative teams. I mean, how do you go about when it comes to making up new artistic ideas?
Well, like Michael referenced, lots of times, I view like almost everything that we do as problem solving, including actually composing. So I really enjoy that. And most of the time when I'm problem solving, which is to kind of solve the issue of identifying exactly what it is that I want to talk about or our group wants to talk about, I will also shut off, you know, do that. Alain de Botton talks about this in The Art of Travel, about, you know, getting on an airplane and staring out the window, and suddenly you've like, you know, written half a novel, you know, or a train, or, you know, and I do that. I go for a walk, or I just stare out the window for a long time, and eventually your brain starts to get inside itself. Then is when, after I've kind of decided what do we want to talk about, that I will go to a composer, or perhaps a composer and a director, or a composer and a production team, or a composer and a filmmaker, and say, you know, would you like to talk about this in some way? And then we start putting our heads together, and then we go, you know, it's a series of like, come together, go apart, come together, go apart, so that we all have time to go, well, you know, how do we make this happen in this round peg square hole type of thing, you know? So I think that it really, you know, it begins and ends with singers. It really does. Like what I do is about choral colors. And so regardless of what the topic is or the theme is what do the singers want and need? What will they really engage with, right? So it begins, and we have the Crossing, for example, has a very interesting structure. It's very egalitarian. We consult all the time with the direction that we're going and the kinds of projects that we're going to do, etc. And I think we're going to look at animals. I don't know if we're going to lead to that now or later.
We can show that now, actually, if you'd like to.
Well, so this is a good example, if you don't mind me just saying, like, of, you know, this is Park Avenue Armory. They have these beautiful reception rooms in the front of the Armory, and then the field house is, you know, a huge building, and they asked us to create a recital for a reception room, and I said, well, let's do it in both reception rooms. What I would like to do is make the contrast what these reception rooms are, which was the very wealthy officers and etc. that built these around the time of the Civil War, and then what actually goes on in the field house, which is that we learn to kill each other, right? Like we get better and better at killing each other. And I find that really fascinating, and that kind of contrast happens all the time. And so I wanted to create a piece. So when the audience came into the Armory, they all had a cocktail, and it was like a cocktail party, and then they come in and they begin to go through this journey that ends in the first act with animals. And when I talked to Ted Hearn about these juxtapositions, I said, I want to do something that doesn't feel like it belongs there. And at the same time, when you leave it, you go, actually, it really belongs here. It needs to be here. And so he wrote back and said, I want to set these two sentences from Trump. These aren't people, these are animals, right? And regardless of the context and all that, I don't want to get into the politics of that right now. But obviously that really resonated with people in New York at the time. And so he wrote this piece, which, you know, basically by the end of the piece, you're really asking yourself the question, who are the animals?
Yeah, let's hear it a little bit. And I'm just saying to everybody, be ready, because the sound is a little bit loud in the beginning. are just going to cut it off, and I just want to say again that after this, you will all receive an email with all the different links and so on. So you will be able to see the whole wonderful film here and all the rest of the excerpts that we do have. So don't be sad.
And I do encourage. Sorry, I do encourage that because
Yeah.
that section is just about over. It's in 4 movements. In the 3rd movement, they get into chanting. These aren't people, these are animals, and it becomes this almost like kind of like Broadway moment. And then it ends with a transcription of a little girl being separated from her parents at the border. And it's like just this, her saying Papa over and over and over again. And it sounds very manipulative, but it's not. It really lands at the end of it, where everything just stops. And you just hear these sort of whimpering sounds that obviously reflect the kind of whimpering that you hear. And everything in there is notated. Everything is very specific. Like, it's not like make a whole bunch of crazy sounds. Very carefully notated.
Yeah, it's a wonderful piece. I've seen the whole film, so I can only tell you that please do. It's wonderful. And also, so how does so the singers, when creating all of these sounds, because it takes quite a lot of good technique, you could say, and really, I mean, engagement. So how do you go about?
Well, so first of all, the irony of that, of course, is that this is as I said, this is the end of the first act, and then everybody went back out and had a cocktail, just to make it feel like super unnatural in a way, you know, like, what are we doing? Like, shouldn't we go save the world, right? You know, and of course, the answer is good luck. You know, our singers, we don't actually use this piece in an audition, but we, you know, our singers, like, they want to tell these stories, and they're willing to go out on any kind of limb to learn stuff, right? You know, I'm always learning new stuff about technique, and also myself, and how to conduct, and you know, how to approach scores that with stuff in it that I've never seen before. And they're just, I don't have to stand in front of them and go, now you go like this and you go.
No,
I don't have to do that. They take the score home, they learn it, they bring it back, and they bring themselves to it. That piece would be nothing without the singers having ideas. Exactly. And Ted Hearn, you know, like, it's a brave piece for him to write.
And that's the co-creations with the singers, right? That is so important for the sound to be right. Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing. And Martina, I know that you are soon heading again to the Netherlands to work with the Netherlands Chamber Choir. And also that you are right now in the process of setting the programming for the Danish National Vocal Ensemble. So there are many programs going on in your head right now, but maybe let's see a film from an earlier production with the Netherlands Chamber Choir in the program Orpheus, and you can tell us a little bit more about that afterwards.
I'm very happy to be back in the Netherlands with amazing Netherlands Chamber Choir, and we are preparing an amazing project called Orpheus.
We do a little ritardando, diminuendo, and a little ritardando, and
the program is really complex and really demands the professional group of singers to deal with it. The majority, of course, it's 21st century composers. We will do some Monteverdi as well. The music is challenging in sense of preparing and studying it, but for the listeners can offer an amazing vocal journey through colors, rhythms, different languages, harmonics, melodics, so it's rich in every sense. I think that everyone who is interested not only in choral music but also in how to express feelings through music
through voice, through sound, colors, and poetry, I would invite to come and to listen to amazing Netherlands chamber choir.
And so please tell us a little bit about your creative process in programming and so.
It's so funny to see yourself and
Yeah.
talking and speaking, Mamma Mia. I'm always
Yes.
embarrassed. I always get red and a little, the heart goes boom, boom. But listen, talking and listening to my colleagues about inspiration, I think this is a very complex process for me, and it's slightly divided. I divide it into the inspiration of how to program things for the next season with the choir you are in, or how to program things when the program is already set by the choir you're invited to. So I need to work on my inspiration of how to do pieces that are already set. Or also for myself, well, how do I understand music? What does it mean to me? How does it move me? But the general idea of inspiration is, I just repeat, my colleagues, they are musicians. Musicians in front of me. I cannot do nothing without musicians, singers in front of me. However, what is inspiration for me personally is definitely arts, any kind, and nature, beside the people. But since we are in a very complex circle, I would say, it's not just the composers, it's not just the musicians performing, but also the audience. This is also for me an inspiration. So the goal, for who, why I do that. And if we are talking about the professional choirs, I think the image I will repeat after my dear boss, Michael Emery now, it's an image of being top of the mountain. But actually our job is also to come down to the valley and look what is there too, and share our professional experience, our professional mindset, our professional love and possibilities that we have, because we can, to share it with the audience. So these are also my inspirations. So I have kind of two lines. One is my personal way, how to grow, how to be better, how to train my piece, my mindset, my interest, my eagerness to discover new things, and what inspires me: people, arts, nature. I love to go to the garden. I like to cut trees. I like to cut the grass. I'm a physical person. I need to get my hands dirty. And then on the other hand, having lax shoes and being properly dressed with beautiful makeup on the stage and perform something with beautiful people around me. And the second inspiration is, okay, I got the scores that I chose or were already given to me. And this is the case with the project in Orpheus, Netherlands Chamber Choir, guest conductor. I was invited when the program was almost fixed. There were just few more minutes to fill in, and I chose some Slovenian composer and so on. But the idea of my work and how I live at the moment in my professional life is actually collaboration with artistic directors. It's not only everything what I want, what I would like, but many times also this adjustment to what is offered. And I, of course, have a liberty to say, no, this is a program I don't like, I don't want to, or yeah, I'm very interested in it, I love the idea. And this is what happened with the Orpheus. It's the theme was Orpheus. We all know it, what happened in the past with him. This program was actually done with a kind of an overview, what is happening to the Orpheus, with Monteverdi, with Gente, Orpheus Behind the Wire, which has a completely different understanding of it, or the Norwegian composer Matre, Orphic song. So it was a theme was, if not text, if not the name Orpheus, the idea of death, losing, looking backwards or going forwards, being sad about it with Monteverdi, Lagrime, you see, but I admire people who are all the time looking for inspiration in different things. So, okay, we have a climate change now. Everything is, so what would the music for climate change would here look about? Or I don't know, the wars or globalization, internet, amnesia, old people, death, how we deal with that, how we deal with divorces, how, you know, this, everything can be an inspiration that can be included in the programmation, but all starts with the vision and idea how to come close to audience, which can be very different.
Yes.
And audience can be very pleased with listening to more easy harmonic songs type of the audience, but you can also have an audience that is really well educated and needs intelligent, how you say, challenges. So it's really depending, and the idea of professional choir for me is also to please actually this wide range of audiences, to offer some kind, if not comfort, but also challenge, growth in different ways.
Yes.
I hope I answered. I don't know. It's like
Absolutely.
it's really
And
complex.
I know also that the Danish National Vocal Ensemble, they have it as quite one of their big tasks to be with the whole audience of all of Denmark and to do different kind of programming for that sake. So
Exactly.
they have
For
a lot
example,
of a community thing
singing.
and singing together with community choirs and things like that.
Just two short examples. For example, they just spent a weekend with doing with 300 people, amateur singers, for a requiem, for example, with the support of Danish Vokalensemblet. Or what was very interesting to hear, every 10 years they publish like folk songs, books, for schools. So everyone learns to sing song. They have an amazing tradition for weddings, birthdays, funerals, gatherings. And for example, many of songs are describing seasons, winter, dark, cold, la la la. But for example, in the last published edition, there was a thought, okay, we are not only Danish people, many other people are coming to our country. The climate change, the winters are not so cold and not so frozen, and more light. So how to think of that differently? And they, for example, commissioned a piece to an Israeli-Turkish composer living now in Copenhagen, how he deals with cold and winter, and he wrote some music on that themes, and it was included actually in Danish public, let's say, folk songs or melodies for the communities. So I think that Denmark is in this case very, very special to include. They simply love to sing together, and sometimes it happens. They have a meeting, official meeting, like a board of members. They started with singing a song.
I know, I'm Danish.
But you see, oh, sorry, so and now you let me speak about that.
No, but it's so true. So
so I'm learning good the culture.
Absolutely,
your culture.
absolutely.
Thank you.
And Michael, I know that you also have wonderful work going on with collaborating with community choirs and building community around your choir. Could you tell us something about that? Because it is interesting. Who are we doing what we do for? That is also an interesting question on this.
Yeah, sure. I can talk a little bit about that. Now, you know, if you look on a map where Edmonton is, you will see it like it's really in the center of nothing. There's not much around it. Like the population of Greater Edmonton is maybe 1.2, 1.3 million, and the next big town is like 3 hours away. Now, in Canadian relations, that's not very far, but still, it's a very, isolated, insular community here. And I'm actually reminded of, the role the Swedish radio played in the 40s and 50s, because it was kind of like this island of classical music that went all and influenced a lot of the country. Now here, we are fortunate to have a very strong singing community. We have a great program, several large universities and some small universities that have great education and all that. And for us as a professional choir to work within, I mean, there's nothing. Of course, we work with the community. I'm coming from a very small town in Switzerland. Community is important, and you know your neighbors, and you know the people across the street. So this is just part, I think, of who we are. It also, I always come back to, and I think this plays a little bit into what Martina was talking about, the role of the professional choir, and there's an image actually that Erik Erikson told me the first time, which is the pyramid, and how you look at the choral, the health of a country in terms of choir music. How is this pyramid shaped? And everybody sings, and then the further up you go in the pyramid, it becomes more selective. You have the church choir, amateur school choirs, ambitious amateur choirs, and then you come to the semi-professional, professional choirs, and that's the pyramid. And you can work your way, I'm hesitant to say up there, but you work your way through these various choirs as a conductor, as a singer, as a composer, maybe even as a manager and as a participant, and you can see these. So I think for a professional choir to flourish, to work with the community, you have to help build this pyramid. You have to be involved in the structure. And so for us, every year we have, like this year, we have 4 community collaborations. That can be, amateur singers. That could be this instance that we have now, which is tenors and basses. So teenage boys and young men coming to Singapore Coro. And then we have a youth choir who's joining us. We also work with universities to bring in their vocal soloists, students, to just work with the community like this, because a lot of our singers are also leaders in choirs with the community. There might be a church director, or there might be a school teacher, school music teacher. So they work within the community, and they bring in the people they work with. So it's kind of like again, maybe we're at the center with this tree, and then the branches go out into the community. During the pandemic, one of the things that was brought to us when we talked to the community is like, well, we now have to, work on Zoom, and everybody was trying out to work on Zoom and sing, with delays and whatnot. And how can you go outside and sing in the fields or in the parking lot and things like that? What music are we singing? Because suddenly the music that we usually sing in a great acoustic doesn't work necessarily in a parking lot anymore. So we actually commissioned Edmonton composers. We have a great array of Edmonton composers. Actually, I see some of you in the panel. Good seeing you here as participants. They wrote 4-part works of 3 to 4 minutes that were accessible for the community, and then Coro recorded those with practice tracks, etc. And those works were then going into the community, so people could go, actually just four singers could get together on their own in the backyard or somewhere else and sing. Okay, so trying to support the community like this. Meanwhile, that's 40 years ago, 2020, 3.5 years ago, and these works have been recorded and many times performed. So helping the community of singers, but also community of composers or community of conductors here to flourish, because that, as we say, that only strengthens who we are.
Yeah, and also they are an important part of the audience for our professional choirs, right? Yeah, so great. And we have touched this a little bit, but Donald, would you like to tell us a little bit more on these things around the social and environmental and political issues that often many of the works that you have commissioned tend to have themes going in that direction?
Well, I guess I would start by saying, that Martina had said, referred to this earlier, honestly, what our brains are doing are love and death, right? Like that's essentially what's going on up there. And all the rest of and sex. And what's in the forefront is like we're, you know, concerned, we have aesthetic values, right? Like and our minds are telling us to do all these things. And so, you know, underneath all of these social justice issues, or whatever you want to call them, environmental, you know, problems in the world, right? Things that we can't solve through music. They're just questions. And I'm really interested in asking these questions, you know. Underneath all of that are those very basic needs, right? These desires and things that we, you know, are very simple. And so that informs everything about, you know, no matter how complex the topic may be. And so you know, it's very important that I stress that, like, I don't think I have any of the answers, you know, and it's not really my job to. I approach that part of our work journalistically. We like to engage a number of projects with original source materials. So that's David T. Little has this in his dissertation that he wrote at Princeton. It talks at length about the critical composer, the person who's like asking questions through using the words of others, for example, and other types of critical composition in order to find out more about our world. Ted Hearn, for example, is very interested in what it feels like to sing words that you would never say, such as "these aren't people, these are animals," right? Yeah. So that all comes together. You know, we have a group of people, we have a community here in Philadelphia, the audience. I even hate to use that word because they're like part of this big, huge, round community. I feel they have a lot of ownership in what we do, and they all want to hear these stories. I mean, we just sang this concert-length piece by David Lang that he wrote for us, called Poor Hymnal. And basically in this piece, he asked the question, if a group of people, a gathering, a religion, perhaps, put those that are most challenged at the center of their practice, what would their hymnal sound like? And it turns out it's a very, very quiet, simple, moving evening. It's, you know, it's a very different approach than animals, for example, you know. Yeah. So that's a big part of what we do. That's me going for, you know, staring out the window for a while and saying, you know, I really want to talk about the specifics about the climate, right? Like what, you know, Caroline Scholl wrote this piece called Ochre, and it's just really about the ground we walk on, you know, like the what is under us that is, you know, supporting us. And, you know, I mean, that's the short version.
Yeah, that's the short version. But I mean, it's also about where do we find the inspiration, and what is I mean, subjects that is interested, that many people are interested in. That is also something that could be the reason for finding that. I mean, when we sit and stare out of the window, we are also affected by all memories we have, by everything we have been, I mean, coming to us from all over our life. And somewhere that is where it all comes out. There's this wonderful, wonderful choral conductor in Sweden, Gunnar Eriksson. I'm sure you all know him. And one time I was talking to him about programming and things like that. And he said, you know, it's all about when I see it afterwards. I don't know why always I'm doing a program, but later, when it's all over, I understand that it was important for me, kind of like therapy, to do this at that moment, but I don't understand it until after. And that was something beautiful about his way of saying that we are into different questions for different reasons, and maybe we don't understand until afterwards why we were doing that program at that exact moment.
Sorry, to just interject here, something I find interesting, just looking around the table here, the way we all talk about approaching, we are all storytellers.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're looking for stories, we're looking for themes, because I think on the spectrum of what do professional choirs present in concert, we also still have the choir just does like, well, we do a Bruckner, we do a Brahms, we do something contemporary. There's no theme. It's just Bruckner. That's it. And then you have, you know, with VoNo, maybe I would say maybe on the other end, a fully theatrical choral performance, which is a story in itself. And, you know, like I'm sure all of you have seen the performances. And I think we are kind of like in the middle, but towards that spectrum or that end of the spectrum of storytelling. So I think it's interesting because this round is already biased towards storytelling and what do we do, what do we express with choral music, and what are the important themes that you want to tell. So I think it's an interesting realization here, like who is actually talking about this.
Yes, and it is also, and like Martina, like you said, there is also so that we respect that there is audience for everything, right? That we need to, some might need some kind of music, some might prefer another kind of music, and it's good that we can be in different fields with the music there. So there is space for all kinds of music making, but what is interesting is how do we approach it? How do we deal with it? How do we inspire each other and inspire ourselves and inspire the singers and include the audience? So that's very nice questions that you have all joined in on today. So I would love to play more films for you, but time is running out, and I'm just telling again, everybody, that you will receive the links in an email. Look at them. It's very nice films. It's wonderful new written music. So don't miss that. So the webinar is only 1 hour, but add on at least 1 hour to sit and look at all the films and enjoy all the wonderful music that is created by the beautiful choirs that you have coming here. So one thing I'm just going to tell about, because I'm going to ask now everybody, so what are you working on right now? And I will start. Right now, VoNo is doing a project we call Planet Woman together with an artist from London, Susanna Arde, and a composer from Germany, Birgitta Flick. And the way we do this right now is very much based on improvisation. So what we do, we're right now in the beginning of the process, which I love, I have to say. All this, you know, the ideas just coming and coming and coming, and maybe you have 300 ideas and you will use 10. That's the best part of the process sometimes. And right now we are then testing things in the rehearsal. We record them. We send the recording to Birgitta. Then a few days later, she sends us new sketches and ideas. And like on Friday, there was this comment for the basses, for example. Basses do anything you'd like to for as long as you prefer, or something like that. So it can be an instruction like that. So we're in that part of the process. But this is a very nice way of collaborating with composers. Because here you, as an ensemble, you're as much the composer. And there's something very nice in this giving and taking and really creating on the spot that is very, very inspiring. And so what are you working on right now? Martina?
First of all, I will need to pack my big suitcase from Paris to Amsterdam tomorrow.
Yes.
I go back to the Netherlands Chamber Choir with an interesting project where I will not conduct. The idea is to join two amazing ensembles, Netherlands Chamber Choir with Amsterdam Sinfonietta, which is an amazing string orchestra ensemble, and join together performing an arrangement of Rossini Petite Messe Solennelle for the choir, soloist, harmonium, two horns, and strings. What will be very interesting for me and challenging, how to prepare the choir to be later on alone and with no conductor. Yes. How to join this music making with a different music sound production, the bows of the strings and breathings of the choir, Who will start? Who will give the tempo? Of course, we have the concertmeister, but it's completely different. There are some parts a cappella and so on. So this will be an extremely interesting session, I think, preparation. And also what I find interesting, we were talking about inspiration and ideas. Look, these are two amazing ensembles from different fields, instrumental, choral, but they join and bring together the audience. So the audience who usually goes to listen to the orchestra, the string orchestra, will now listen also to the amazing choir and the other way around. So these kind of collaborations, these joint sessions or joint making music and enriching each other, I find it really interesting, and I'm eager to see how it will work.
And also, I mean, here we have another subject for another webinar, maybe the role of the conductor, right? So that's another interesting subject for sure.
I
We will
agree.
do that some other day. And so now time is unfortunately running out, but Michael, do you have one last comment on choral music today?
On choral music today, I don't think I have a last comment within this. So I think we have all talked about this. So I'm all good. Thank you.
And Donald?
Onward and upward. We're headed toward a Harold Meltzer premiere with Sam Buck's percussion on a poem by Araceli Skirme, which is about the undocumented immigrant experience in America. We're really excited about that. And then we have a new album coming out with Caroline Shaw, Ayanna Woods, and George Lewis.
Yes, and I can tell you that all of these ensembles have wonderful music recorded on their web pages and everywhere. So just go there, see, learn, enjoy lots of new and wonderful music. So for me, I have learned a lot already today. And it's been such a joy talking together with you, Martina, Michael, and Donald. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with all of us. And if I would do like this to applause, I'm sure everybody in the list will do that as well. So big applause for everyone. You can send them here. Yes. That's really wonderful. And everybody, please look in your mailbox, also in the spam, if it might go there, and see the email that you get. And we are, as I told you before, very happy to receive feedback from you. Time runs when you're having fun. So this hour went like speed fast, I would say. But thank you so much for joining us today, and hope to see you in webinars later on again. Thank you so much to our beautiful panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Greetings. Bye.
Thanks,
Thank you
everyone.
so much.
Thanks.